What's going on, boys? Quin69 here. Today I'm going to be interviewing DJ Clancy, the CEO of Twitch, and he's going to unveil the secret as to why Dr. Disrespect was banned. I mean, that's a meme. That's a meme. Okay, no, but no, it was good.
You're just trying to get your ACCB up there, you know.
Well, I don't even know what that is, but yeah. Okay, so wait, do you know how many times I've been banned? Like, do you know who I am? Like, why would you even come on my stream?
Well, because you asked. You know, actually, our partner managers mentioned it, and I trust them. So I do. Yes. I do know who you are, Quinn, but I don't fully know who you are. I mean, I haven't watched you stream before, right?
Okay.
And so you know, I only slightly know who you are. I know the name. But of course, you don't really know who somebody is until you know, you watch them on stream some.
Hell yeah, no, for sure. Now, to be fair, my band's that. I mean, you know, it was all. I'm talking like 2 frames of titties showing up. You know, that like stuff like that. And then there's one thing where there's a misunderstanding. Well, yeah, we don't need to talk about it anyway. Hey, I think that's
we don't
awesome.
Need to go into that, you know.
Yeah, I just think it's crazy that
luckily. Let me say, luckily, I have not been banned yet. Okay, let's just chat. No funny business, okay?
Wait, can you even get banned? Is that even possible? Like
I think it is. I mean, I'm not going to pull any strings, you know? That everybody would be pissed if I did something that deserves ban and I didn't get banned, you know?
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's badass. Okay, so, because I don't really know as well, you know, you don't know me, I don't know what you do. Can you describe, like, what do you actually... Like, do you just do podcasts and stuff? Like, do you even have a real job, or how does that work?
So, yeah. So, you know, on the side, I'm the CEO of Twitch. That is what I, you know, supposedly do. That's what they tell me. And then I stream on the side for fun and, you know, to chat with streamers and stuff like that. It's been great. I really enjoy it. But, yeah, that's my day job is to be CEO of Twitch.
Yeah, like specifically, like, can you describe it just to give it an example? So, like, the streaming thing, because obviously we can see the streaming stuff that's visible. Like, specific, well, what does a day in a life, like a work week for you look like? You know, actually.
So, yeah. So my normal work week, and this is not a normal work week. This is an incredibly non-normal work week, which we can get to. Most of the time, I'm in meetings. I live in an hour east of Portland. And so I'm in VCs and then I travel a fair amount. But most of the time I'm kind of in meetings from 9 to 5 because, you know, kind of my role is to set the strategic direction, but then of course meet with teams and talk about what they're doing, what they're planning, give them feedback, you know, think about the organization. And so most of the time I'm spending it with folks that are working at Twitch. And then, you know, I spend some time writing and, you know, after work, I'll spend some time streaming.
That's bad. Wait, can you, if sir, you're in one of these meetings, so can you just be like, hey, no, don't do it that way. Do it this way. Or is it more like you kind of just check and just key them and check? Like, how does that?
Well, it's actually, it's always an interesting question. In fact, I jokingly, whenever like somebody comes up to me and asks me something, I'm like, well, don't be thinking I have any pull around here. But in general, it's best if I have a particular belief about what they should be doing. It's much better if I, you know, lead them to the water and you know, help them understand why I think a particular way. It's fairly seldom that I say do this, because in general, for the organization to scale, like I can't be making all the decisions. That just doesn't work.
You bottleneck.
So yeah, and people need to feel an important part of like, you know, doing stuff is feeling agency. I think everyone listening to this stream, there's a book I've read called Lost Connections, and it talks about the rise of anxiety and depression and about lost connections. And one of the connections is having agency in your work, where you're feeling like you're making decisions that matter. And that's true whether you're, you know, working at Twitch or whether you're working at a Starbucks, that in general, you need to feel like you have decisions you can make. And that's a big part of kind of being fulfilled. And in the end, we're most successful if the people working at Twitch are motivated, fulfilled, passionate. And so most of the time I'm kind of giving feedback and pushing, but sometimes I'll say, no, we can't do that.
Nice. That's 100% true. And what I've noticed, I've actually seen this in in gaming companies specifically, is at the top of all the best. Well, I mean, you can say companies. There's a person there who's got a vision, and they have a direction where they want to head. Do you have like do you have some vision for Twitch? Like, what's the end game?
I do, and in fact, well, let me say this about the vision. I do. In fact, a big part of my role is to set high-level strategy and then drive alignment to make sure everyone in the company is moving in the same direction. Now, before I go through the vision, I'm going to say this as a caveat. A lot of times there's this desire to describe this grand vision of the future. And people often try to describe something different than they are, as if they're not happy who they are right now. Okay, so the quintessential example of this would be, the renaming of Facebook to Meta, right? Because there's this vision of the future that they, in terms of the metaverse and all that, and they rename the company. And I've always had some hesitancy to describe like a 5-year vision, because I feel like sometimes it's sort of not being happy with where you are right now and continuing to make incremental progress. So I want to start by saying, I think what happens on Twitch today, we often take all that happens for granted. It's easy to, but the number of people that it supports, the communities that it creates, it's pretty amazing. And there's huge value in just continuing to make it a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, as opposed to having to radically change it to be something else. So I want to start with that. Okay. But then if you said, okay, so a huge part of what we need to do is just lots of little things that make Twitch better. Long term, I think the biggest challenge we face is, I think live streaming is an experience that reaches far fewer people than it should. Meaning, in terms of the magic of live streaming, I think that it's pretty special. And for everyone that is watching TikTok, there are a few of us that then watch live streaming, and I think we need to expand the market. That's one reason that some of the decisions we've been making, ultimately we need to grow the market. A big part of that is helping with creators, getting more creators on the platform, helping creators be discovered. We have 2 big efforts along this right now. One, we're investing in short form content, because one of our challenges is we have viewers that'll come to Twitch, spend a lot of time on Twitch, but then they get busy and they sort of drift away. And we need to maintain that connection between creators such as you, Quin, that your audience has, to make sure they keep coming back. And I think one way to do that is to allow shorter sessions so that when they don't have a lot of time, they can still check in on you. And so we're doing that both with, we have a stories product, and I'm just going to touch base on it, and looking at a feed that might help with that. Also looking at consuming live feeds.
Do you mean like something like X or Twitter? It's like a scrollable thing.
Well, yeah. So the simplest comparison would be Instagram stories. So that way you can send messages to your community when you're not online, and then if they're busy, they can keep that connection with you. Because one thing that happens, and everybody here that's listening to you and watching you, they like coming to see you, but then maybe they get busy or their shift changes at their job or something else happens and they can't come as frequently. And how is it that they maintain that connection to you? And how do you maintain that connection even if you take a few days off? And
well, they just watch the stream at work, right? They just boot up the stream at work. You can then just start watching.
They do watch the stream at work. In fact, actually, that's a huge part of why Twitch, works, is for those people that can watch Twitch while they do other stuff. It works for them.
Okay. Okay. So you basically, the vision is incremental improvements, and then increasing the amount of people that can actually access Twitch and see Twitch.
Yeah. Yes, and then let me get to a couple other things. So we need to make shorter, more frequent sessions. Number 2, I think collaborations is the foundation of growth in Twitch. One thing that we've been investing in, and it's still not where it needs to be, is guest star, which is, and we're pivoting that to focus on streaming together to doing what we're doing right now. I think a big, by the way, let me make sure. You know what I realized? I'm looking at the wrong camera. I have a camera right here. I have a camera right here that's a better camera. Let me see. That's why I've been looking like this, because there's a good camera.
I mean, to be
right
fair,
there.
we're looking at each other on Discord. It looks fine.
Anyway, let me keep going. So I think collaborations is the foundation of growth on Twitch and for discovery. And so we're investing a lot in allowing streamers to easily collaborate together. And in fact, the one thing we'd love to have is more impromptu collaboration where you're just sort of hanging out. You see someone streaming that you're friends with. You knock on the door, you drop in, you hang for 30 minutes and chat with each other. Maybe one of your friends sees that you two are hanging out and they come and hang with you. And we're calling it Stream Together because I think a big part of growing on Twitch is collaborations.
How does that work functionally? Like, how does that? So, what do you? Does the chats combine or something, or how does that work?
They will. Yeah, at this point, for the first version, chats don't combine.
Okay.
That in fact, that you could watch on any channel. But eventually, we're gonna have the ability to then press a button and then to combine it into one chat if that's what you want, right?
That's sick.
So that way the communities can be hanging out together.
That'd be really cool. I could imagine a function on Twitch. So say you're on someone else's stream, you can somehow say to that you're live on someone else's stream, and then they go to your channel, and then bang, it's got their chat, and they can you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, and yes, and part of it is just make it easier because creating content when you're sitting there staring at the camera, talking with your chat by yourself, it takes a lot of energy to do that, and especially when you're smaller. There's not a lot going on. Your chat's not as active. I think, Quinn, for you've got a big enough community that you can sit there and do it. But it gets tiring to just talk to a camera for long periods.
No, 100%. When you first start off streaming and the chat is dead and there's nothing's happening, you're kind of just describing what you're doing at the same time, and it can be kind of painful. And no, for sure, it's unironically there's like a threshold that you get over where the chat becomes content. And then you're like, I got nothing to talk about. You just look at chat. Oh, they said something funny. You just, talk about what they just said, which is kind of OP actually.
And actually, one of the challenges, one of the reasons that gaming works so well for live streaming. So if you think of live streaming, all the live streaming platforms started as a general live streaming platform, and then eventually predominantly became gaming. Justin TV to Twitch, YouTube Live, Facebook Live. And one reason is, when you've got 5 people watching you, you can sit there and game because you like to game. You are already gaming, right? Gaming's fun. And and then you have 5 people watching you, And so you can do that for 6 months until, it grows to 25 to 50 to 100. But if you're trying to interact with your chat, or if you're trying to do anything else, like if you have 5 people watching you, I play the piano and sing on my stream. It's not the same as if you only have 5 people watching you.
No,
it's tough to do it for 6 months.
100%. And on top of that, if you just gamed, unless you were like a top ranked gamer, if you just gamed with and you weren't talking to your chat the entire time, you wouldn't grow because there's so much competition now on the website that it just wouldn't even be engaging. Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything else in the vision you want to touch on, or is that pretty? That's pretty big. It's pretty badass.
That's right. And by the way, look, we also, and I'm not going to go into specifics here. A huge part of streamers is them being able to make a life for themselves and support themselves doing it. So of course we have a lot of investment in trying to improve monetization for streamers. Doing a lot of different things. One thing in particular, we have an investment trying to, especially for medium-sized streamers, to enhance the sponsorships, because I think that's really important for streamers. And what can we do to help enhance your ability to find sponsors?
Are you talking about mediating? Do you mean like bounties? Do you mean like where Twitch gets? Like how does that work?
I think the biggest idea would be to allow the sponsorships to create more integrated experiences in the stream. So, for example, we're testing out channel skins. You might do something with a hype chat where there's certain things that we can do that we can integrate it into the product. That will then make that sponsorship more, more impactful. But we're very clear, while we may do things, ultimately, you're going to have a direct relationship with your sponsors. And we don't need to mediate that. We need to enhance it.
Could you? Could that be an option? Because I'll be honest, I'm lazy as. And if I could have a thing where Twitch just sets up the stuff and they say, all right, and it's obviously like a good company that you believe in and think is good and everything, where Twitch just sets everything up and they say, all right, just go live and then talk about this thing and we'll handle the rest. and then it just comes through the Twitch payout system, and you don't have to do anything. Like, would that is that a thing you consider?
We're definitely looking at the matchmaking part of it. We're looking at that too, because especially for medium-sized streamers and streamers that don't have like an exclusive deal with an agent, then they're like, this is great. Okay. And for some streamers that have an exclusive deal with an agent, then they're like, nope, we don't want you in the middle. And so the point is, yeah, we should be able to matchmake, and a lot of streamers would love it if we can help find sponsorships for them.
I mean, I think people are fine with it, providing the cut is providing everything's transparent, and you can see like, oh, Twitch is taking like what 10%, 15%, whatever percentage. I don't know what, you know. As long as it's transparent and you can see everything that's going on, I think people wouldn't care. I don't know.
And then you can decide, maybe I'm abnormal. You can decide if it's good for you.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so I've got a question that's gonna go into a whole new tangent. So when did you start working at Twitch specifically?
About 4 years ago.
4 years ago. Oh, shit. Wait, that's fairly recent, actually. Okay, so do you even know about this thing? There used to be this problem. What back in my day, Clancy, back in my day, okay, you're going to say this is a long time ago.
You're an OG, you know.
It's kind of sad, actually. I'm not quite OG enough to be, like, classified as a, I wasn't just in TV OG. So, but I was, just a year after that or something. But yeah, we used to have this awful problem, which was people utilize bots. They call them view bots, where basically it would be a program that's run on a computer or like many computers.
Yep, I know what a view bot is. Don't you worry.
Okay, well I'm explaining it for the chat so I understand as well. So yeah, and it was prolific, right? There was people view botting like crazy, every category, view bots going ham. And then something happened. I don't know. Twitch did something, and then they were just gone. So like, what's your stance on view bots and stuff like that?
Well, we spend a lot of time trying to manage viewbots. So my stance is I don't like viewbots, that's called the internet. And so it's one of those deals where you're always, it's a cat and mouse game, because you're always kind of working on it to try and reduce viewbots. It affects streamers, it affects the community, and so it's one of the challenges that you just have to do. And I suspect you're remembering. If you go back in time, we weren't very good at it, and so viewbots would just dominate Twitch.
People would do it as meme. They would viewbot someone maliciously. Like back in the Diablo section, they would just like find the guy called LKZ. They'd just like viewbot the crap out of his stream to the and absurd numbers, and just to mess with him. And it's like, what is he gonna do? Like just go offline? Like what can he do to stop? Right. But anyway, Twitch stopped. They obviously stopped that, which is badass. But now we're seeing
it's still an issue. I can't say viewbotting isn't an issue now. It's always an issue.
Oh, well, you guys have quelled it like massively, which kudos to Twitch for that. But now we're seeing a rise of I call it the viewbotting 2.0, right? That where it's like pseudo viewbotting. It's viewbotting with extra steps, which is where basically people intentionally embed their stream. And then they hide their stream on like a wiki or a website, and they'll put it in some cases they'll have like dimensions on the website where the embed doesn't even show, it's muted, and it's hidden like 4 pages down, and you will literally never find it.
I know it well. Yeah, so it's definitely one thing that it's a tricky situation, because there are legitimate uses of embedding where people are really watching the stream. And then there are people that abuse it, and it's tricky to distinguish. One of the things that we have to look at is also how this affects discovery, because that's one of the challenges. Is of course one person goes to the top of discovery because they get a big view count, but then their chat is dead, and they're not really 30,000 people.
Well, they're hijacking the metric of viewership, right? And they're making it look like, oh, this stream has 40,000 viewers. There must be something insane going on in this stream. I need to click on this right now. And where it's not real, it's like there's actually 100 people in there, or 100 poor victims, I like to call them, who just got baited into clicking the stream, and actually, they're just on a wiki somewhere.
Yeah. Now the good news is it's certainly happening, and it's something we're definitely looking at. It's unfortunately the solution, especially in terms of the discovery. One of the challenges you always face in companies is there's all this software that makes all this work, and sometimes it's built in a certain way where something you'd think might be easy actually isn't easy to do, because the way that the code is written, it's hard to tease it apart. And like, one of the challenges we always face is the whole issue of prioritization of resources, because there'll be things we might be like, no, we'd love to stop that, but am I going to shift someone from doing something that's going to drive growth for a creator? And that's always a trade-off. So
maybe I'm
we're
biased.
looking at the problem now.
Maybe I'm biased, Clancy, but I feel like it is. I feel like it is a high priority problem, because what's happening is it's kind of like a race at the bottom, where for the past year and a half, every category I've been in has been just filled with embedders. Okay, and it's like every category, every single game, there is embedders there, and it's the same thing happening over and over and over again. And what's happening is people are realizing, wait, this is not TOS. And this is like, it's like, well, I don't think it's ethical, but it's, they can technically get away with it because it's not going to get banned, right? So then everyone's like, well, maybe I should start up a wiki. And then people they're getting their friends to put their, stream on, like, we had an issue in the Path of Excel community recently where people were embedding their streams on the basically tool people use to craft things. And what's happening is more and more people are doing it because you're like, well, it's not against the TOS. It clearly works. It's the fastest way to grow my stream. Like, not collaborate. No, screw collaborating, right? Let's just embed my stream and go to the top of the category of some new AAA release, right? And that's why it's like, it's kind of high priority, I feel like.
No argument there. In fact, I don't want to look at my schedule right now, but I think I have a meeting later this week. You asked what's your day like. I think the meeting is later next week, where the team is coming and talking to me about the different options and how we can handle it.
Yes. Just destroy them. Okay, you need to just, like, go big in that meeting. Okay, and just, I mean, 'cause it sounds like, I mean, you're totally on board and you understand and you agree. Because do you think there's
no argument? There is no argument about the, the fact that we don't want that to happen. Okay, the issue is just the different ways to stop it, and trying to make sure you figure out the right way to stop it. And the doing the work, because again, unfortunately, these things aren't snap your fingers and it just happens. But I think it is something, as you pointed out before. Once you figure out the right way, you get it done, and then this is one of the things that I think we can control, right? So it's not something that will persist.
Is it annoying if I give you guys feedback? Like, I could give you feedback right now, like in terms of. Well, okay. Let me. I've already started.
It's not annoying. It may not be. I mean, in other words, it's interesting as we talk about this problem. Again, it's a problem I think we understand well, and I don't disagree with any of you're saying about the concern there.
Well, in the Path of Excel community, everyone, there's a big discussion about it, because it was, people were starting to do it more and more. And what we decided was, well, okay, what needs to happen? Okay, it needs to not autoplay, right? So if it autoplays and someone doesn't, and it's muted, and you don't know you're watching it, well, that's just an issue, right? So people have to actually activate the embed, and then it just needs to be, they have to be going there to view that content. And if it's like on a website which is clearly not meant to view that content, and it's just being used to hijack, Yeah. So I don't know if you could put a rule set.
I will say, by the way, that to understand, there's some things like that are, this is the cat and mouse game, that are very hard for us to determine. Okay, because we don't necessarily control certain, we don't have all the visibility. That you're looking at it with your eyes, you can figure out it right away. That doesn't mean the signals are coming to us. Where we can do the same thing. Okay.
Well, I need to code it. I need to code it. You send the coders in there, Clancy.
Because, for example, let's take, the whole issue of autoplay or clicking it. There are all sorts of ways that someone on a website can get it to start playing.
Yes.
Right? Because the play is just a signal from the website that hits play. I mean, they can easily, so there are all sorts of ways that they can get. Now, one of the things we have to look at is also just how to treat embeds in discovery, because it is annoying that it happens at all in terms of people inflating. The biggest problem is it inflates your discovery. And so there are solutions where we just make it where embeds don't drive discovery. Then that greatly reduces some of the motivation for it.
Yeah. So you're saying the embeds wouldn't even count at the view count somehow? It would just be...
Or not in the view count that is used for discovery, for example. That, in fact, that would be one option. Again, I'm just This is exactly what the team is coming to talking about, in terms of what is doable, because there's only certain things that we have the ability to see what's happening.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, many ways to solve a problem, and it's like how what's the most efficient way of doing it. But yeah, there absolutely is a problem, and I'm glad to see that you guys are doing something about it, which is awesome. I really do look forward to that, because it is obviously it does bother me, because people obviously say, imagine it's your first time on Twitch. You're like, oh damn, I wanted to see this new game. I'm going to try Twitch for the first time. They click on the top stream, and then it's just some guy mumbling into a microphone, and the chat's just static. It would just be and whereas there's a legitimate person playing the game correctly, actually making fire content, who's now being suppressed, and now guess what? They get bored, click off Twitch, go watch YouTube, and it's like, it hurts the website in many ways, and it's awesome.
And I think there are other signals. You can look at a stream and look at the ratio of their embedded views versus their non-embedded views too, as a signal that says, all right, they have 150 people on our website, and they have 20,000 embedded views. Something strange is going on there.
Yeah, exactly. It's disgusting. It triggers me so much. Okay, I'm going to change the subject now. Okay. But yeah, embed is bad. Okay, hell yeah. So, you're CEO of Twitch. How long do you want to be CEO for? Are you popping? Do you like it? Is it badass?
It's a fun job. It's a fun job. I like 99%. This is the last job I do. Nothing is 100%, but 99% is the last job I do. How long? I'm having a great time. So can't tell you if it's 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. I'm not young. I'm not a spring chicken, but I enjoy working. So my wife probably wants it to be less. But I'm enjoying it.
Well, to be honest, it's awesome that you're. I mean, I didn't even know the guy's name who was the CEO until he quit. Whereas I've seen you about the place, interacting with the community, out there with streamers, doing stuff, which means you're gonna. I like the fact that you're gonna be in touch more, and it would be cool to see. Providing you can actually get good changes in. That's gonna be all and good, because someone who can make change and also is in touch. I mean. That's a powerful combo.
Yeah. So I'll say that Emmett was the founder, and we all have different strengths, and I'm very comfortable. I've often said, in a different world, if I was born 40 years later, could I? There's some folks that have tech backgrounds that end up being streamers, and could I have gone a different pathway? I could have gone a different pathway if I was 40 years younger. My personality fits for streaming. I like interacting with people. I like the improvisational aspect. I actually was a theater major undergrad with computer science, and anyway, so it works well for me. Emmett did a lot in founding Twitch in particular. Twitch wouldn't be here if Emmett didn't break it off from Justin TV, and he had a tremendous amount of passion that built Twitch to what it is today. And while he might not have been as out there, he cared deeply about creators. He just didn't see it as much, because his personality doesn't fit it as well. But Twitch is a pretty unique thing, and there's some products that if you knew they were going to happen, regardless. So let's take, for example, self-driving cars. Suppose Google never started to do self-driving cars. We eventually would have people trying to build self-driving cars, right? The world would have been a thing. Someone would have decided to do it.
They can start it earlier, though, right? They can make it happen a lot faster.
They can start it earlier, but it was still going to happen in the world, right? Twitch is very different than all the other VOD platforms that do live streaming on the side, right? Because we focus on live streaming, right? The whole experience focuses on live streaming. That is, I think, one reason why the community experience at Twitch is so special. If Twitch never came to be, there'd be live streaming. I don't know if it'd be the same live stream, because the community experience, I often use the phrase community-centric live streaming to distinguish between, someone might live stream on TikTok, but people watch it for 5 minutes and then they swipe. Because if you're on TikTok, you're programmed to swipe. If you try to watch TikTok and not swipe, you're like, come on, let me swipe. No, come on, please. Can I swipe? Because You've been programmed to swipe on TikTok, right?
I'm a boomer, and a TikTok is the devil. Okay, I refuse to create an account. Okay, which is probably terrible for my discovery, but.
And the same thing, by the way, it's the same. I often talk about this. I actually was at YouTube and ran product and engineering there about 10 years ago, and it used to be that live originally was going to be on the channel page, so that if someone was live, all you saw was their content. But then it was a decision to move stuff to the watch page, which was the right decision for YouTube. But if you're watching someone live stream on YouTube, you look to the bottom right and there's related videos. And, we're all conditioned. If you get a little bored watching a YouTube VOD, what do? You look to the bottom right and there's candy down there saying, come check me out. And, newsflash, sometimes live streaming is boring. You're fiddling with this or that, and someone glances down right and sees a cool. I was visiting with T-Pain the other day, and I joked with him. I said, "Yeah, on YouTube you're competing with yourself because you have all your kick-ass videos there on YouTube, and they might look at one of your VODs." And so I think there's really something special about Twitch, and that's what makes the community experience ridiculously unique.
100%. It's the ecosystem, right? It's the fact that there's people live, and at any point you can send something could happen in their stream. You can send a clip, then the chats interact, and then people from their stream bleed over to your stream. Everyone's talking. It's like that doesn't exist on other platforms, which is I don't get why they don't just copy paste. Like why there's no directory system on YouTube blows my mind. I mean, to be honest, I feel like YouTube could have done a lot to kind of mimic some of the things, some of the magic of Twitch. But they just haven't. But
but that's the thing. You have to understand what drives their business. And again, I think they're making it. I'll go back. It used the way YouTube used to work was if you drove someone to your channel page, then you kept that viewer was the idea. So if they went to your channel page and they hit play, all they would see is your stuff. And we made the decision to take that off, so that when you go to someone's channel page and hit play, you go to what's called the watch page. You can see it in the URL. And that was the right decision for YouTube, actually, because part of the magic of YouTube is it is a amazing platform for watching VODs. It's really entertaining. It's optimized for VODs because that's their primary business. And they have a live platform, but they're not going to make changes that optimize it for live if it's going to hurt their VOD experience, because their VOD experience is really good.
Yeah. Wait, speaking of, driving people to different streams and all that on Twitch, there's a change you guys made. I say recently, but it's maybe like a year ago now or something. We just said, oh yeah, you can no longer host and you can only rate.
Yeah.
And I love hosting people because I can host people. Some people can go over there, spam the chat, whatever. But I cultivate what I call the offline chat, right? Where I have these guys who are permanently, the streamers are live even when I'm not live. They're still in there having conversations, talking. And if I raid, then it kind of ruins the offline chat. So now I'm unable to host because I don't want to, and I don't raid. So it's like, what was the thought process behind deleting host? Like, why not just leave it?
Well, so there were two issues. First of all, I don't know if you remember, but about 2 years ago, there was a security incident that got some press. And due to that, we had to change a lot of our infrastructure to make sure something like that couldn't happen again. And one of the challenges is code that was working, you couldn't just leave it running. That either we needed to build it on the new system, or we had to, so it was going to take time to rebuild hosts. It wasn't for free to just leave it up. Okay. And there is a real challenge with hosting. People that use Twitch a lot, they know hosting, they go to a channel, they understand hosting. Anyone who doesn't use Twitch a lot, hosting was confusing. Because they're coming to your channel and they see something else. And they didn't understand that this wasn't your channel. They're like, oh, okay. It's like to you know when someone's hosting because you use Twitch all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
I get what you're saying.
For other people, it was confusing. But,
Shouldn't they just learn? Shouldn't they just learn? And then, because there's kind of a different experience, right? Like watching, so if I host, say, Steel Mage, right? The difference between being in his chat and typing and being in my chat and talking about what's happening on his stream from my chat because of context. Which, I mean, don't wrong. I could see there'd be a learning process there. But do you not think that that's a potential? I mean, maybe most people, because there's advantages to hosting and there's disadvantages. I guess, so you guys just thought the disadvantages?
Well, the problem is, let me tell you what I think makes sense, but it's not free, so we have to prioritize it against other things. The person coming should not be confused. They should understand you're not live, but they have something there that you might want to watch. And if you want to watch it with their community, go ahead and watch it with their community. But this isn't the creator's content. This is someone else's content. And you may want to go to that person's channel. But that should be clear and that is not the way host was made, right? The idea is you're recommending someone, right? You're saying, I'm not here, but check this out. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, you can do
that.
I mean,
watch this with my community.
Well, okay. So I guess my opinion would be then, okay, like obviously it requires time and effort and money to like create the feature, but then maybe just a pop-up that comes up saying, yo, I'm not live, but watch this guy. And then they have to press OK. Yeah. And then boom.
Yes, or there's all sorts of ways to, like, there's agreed. There's all sorts of ways to do it, right? But let me tell you the way I think about hosting, and you talk about raids and then hosting. Now, the interesting thing, for you, a big part of hosting, as you described it, it's a chance for your community to watch something together, right?
Yeah.
Because your community is still there, and they're watching it, and they enjoy that together, which is, I think, that is a real value for hosting. It's also a way for you to introduce people. And really, you have this sequence between hosting, raiding, and collaborating, right? Because hosting is you telling someone, check this person out. Raiding is, I'm going to send you over there, but then I'm taking off. And collaborating is, we're going to do something together for a little while. And of the three, when I think about helping someone grow, I often use this analogy. Suppose you have two friends, okay, and they don't know each other. And you can tell them, hey, you two might like each other. You two should go out and have a beer, okay? The odds are they'll kind of look at you and say, I'm kind of busy, and like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll like him, but they don't go out and have a beer. They might look at each other, but they're just busy. They have other stuff to do. Then the other option is you say, oh, let's get together. But as soon as you get together, you take off. Okay, and they're like, why'd he just leave? And then the third option is you say, let's get together. You hang out and have a beer with them for an hour. And they start talking to each other. And after hanging out for an hour, they say, hey, I really like you. Why don't we get together sometime? Right? In terms of friends getting together, it works much better if you hang out for a little while, because part of like finding someone you like is spending time with them. And so that's one reason why I like hosting. I think we should have something like hosting. I love raiding. But I think we also need to make collaboration work much more seamlessly. Yeah. Because I think that is more for Twitch. Like, it's tough to build an affinity with a creator, and it takes more than 5 minutes. It takes hanging there for an hour or so.
Well, I see advantages to all three. I see, like, because sometimes you do need to go, and sometimes you don't want, and then other times you do want your community to just watch something and have kind of a safe space. I use that word loosely, like a little area that they're comfortable typing in and having, talking about something. And other times, you do want to do a collaboration. You want to have a conversation. I mean, that'd be awesome. I kind of understand what you're describing, right? Like so you can kind of do like a raid collab. They have to obviously accept the invite or something, right? And then what? You just come onto their stream, like.
Well, the way ideally it should work, and we're working on it, is you're sitting there, you're streaming, you can look at other people streaming. You can control who can knock on your door, so that then you say who can knock on. You like have a shingle, and sometimes you're in the middle of a game, you don't want any bothering you. Yeah. But then you might have what I'll call your good friends, and unless you're in the middle of the game, you'd let your good friends do it. And sometimes you might let people from your community do it, because in fact, if you play a particular game, I was talking to Bodhi, who plays a lot of RuneScape, and he says, yeah, for other RuneScape creators, I would certainly take time where I just collaborate with them, right? And let them come up and talk to me if they were used. So different ways where you could say, who can knock on my door? And then if somebody wants to knock on your door, it's just real simple, where suddenly, bam, it works, and you're on stream together. And then other people that, again, you let knock on your door can come knock on your door. And so before you know it, you're hanging out with 4 friends talking about whatever. And eventually you can have it where you can hit the button and it combines chat, right? So that way y'all are hanging out, your chat's together, and it's seamless. You don't have to plan it. You and I, let's talk about, us. We had to plan this, right? You had to think your schedule. I had to think my schedule. We did it a week out. And Twitch isn't about, that's not the way to, like, you wake up and figure out, okay, what am I doing today? You know? And
Yeah.
Twitch is about improvisation and the moment and something just happening,
Yeah.
not planning something in advance.
It's like transient live content, and then I mean, that does sound awesome. I could totally imagine. Like I have friends, I could imagine a tiered system where you can set up ranks, and they could join in at different times. Where you have like your ultra BFFs, where they could just at any moment. I mean, I know, for example, I have a friend called Mathel, who he gets drunk sometimes, and he comes and he has to like, hey man, let me Discord you, and then he comes and I Discord him, right, and he would join in and have a conversation. Whereas I would be able to set him up and give him like a flag where he could just randomly come in at any point and just be like, what the hell are you doing?
Yes. Or like one of the ideas that I was talking with some streamers, and then the idea would be good if there was a sound of the knock, right? And maybe you even have an eye hole where you can look at their stream, right? So with your chat, you can kind of say, whoa, who's there? And you look through the eye hole and you see, and you talk with your chat. And let's say, so this is a friend who's kind of drunk, and you talk to your chat and like, should we let him in? What do you think? Right? You talk with your community and then you can say, all right, let's let him in, right? That could be really fun to, have that interaction.
No, I definitely look forward to that. That sounds like a really cool product or feature or whatever. Yeah, that's badass. I got lots of ideas for products and features, which we'll go into. Wait, how much time we got, by the way, in terms of like how long is your next meeting?
I'm fine with. I already, since I was running late, I canceled my 11 o'clock. Let me just see if my 11:30 is something that is hard for me to cancel or not.
Because I might triage some of the questions there, depending on.
I can miss my 11:30. Let me send a message telling him to reschedule it. Right.
I mean, wait. Let me think. Yeah, I probably got like another. Wait, what time is it now? Wait, what time is it now for you?
Well, it's 11:15 my time.
Oh, jeez.
So
Okay, yeah. I got more. Certainly more than 15 minutes of questions. But obviously,
okay. Yeah, that works. That works.
Giga Chad, just canceling meetings, based.
Yeah, you got to have your priorities straight.
Hell yeah. Actually has a job.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay. So it's a bit of a change of the subject a little bit. Do you think that we're going to see sub prices change, or will Twitch Turbo just kind of inflate over time? Because obviously you guys have been modifying Twitch Turbo. Because I mean, yeah, how's it work? Like money gets worth less as time goes on. So are we going to see the changes?
It's a great question. Great question, and one thing that we're constantly trying to think of and look at, because I think there is a real reason to think that with the inflation and all that, that we should look at what the sub price is, because I think that it's always like, it's one of those things that there's never a right answer. There's complexities in it, but I think we need that flexibility. So yeah, it's something we're definitely considering to figure out what we think is the right answer.
I know that some platforms do. You can choose your own prices. So like,
yep. I mean, one of my thoughts was that I think you don't want to have. I think you want to have a floor, because you don't want, like, I don't want a streamer to be getting pressured to feel like they have to lower their price, right? Because
I would do that. Yeah, I would.
Right.
Which would probably be bad for you guys.
Well, it may not be good for you either, is the challenge, right? In other words, but you maybe feel like you need to because someone else did, right? And if it's bad for us, then it's bad for you. In other words, if you make less money if we make less money, you make less money, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
so
100%. Depending on the split.
For you is good for us. Okay. But I do think I've thought about this idea of letting people to pick higher prices. I think some folks, it's like, look, I have a bigger audience, I have a bigger name. I do think that's interesting. It adds complexity, but letting people to pick a price is something that's definitely been, in the realm of stuff to think through.
Okay. And if sub prices don't rise, ads become more and more valuable because they rise with inflation, and people will just. Oh yeah.
Yeah. We have to. You can't have that. Subs are the Subs are the bulk of our revenue. We don't want it where the value in subs is diminishing in terms of how much money you make. So yeah, so we need to make sure that subs, they're a critical part of our business, they're a critical part of your business.
Not fair enough. To be fair, I'm probably one of the weirdos. I kind of like that. I don't know how you put it. Like, you just run ads, and then you don't have to sit there and be like, "Hey, sub," because I'm not. I'm probably very abnormal. Where I don't sit there saying sub to my stream. I say like, "Hey, if you know, maybe I'll occasionally be like, hey, if you don't want ads, get Twitch Turbo or subscribe." But generally speaking,
Right.
You just either get ads or you subscribe. To not get ads, and then that's how it is.
No, I don't think you're unusual at all. I think that it is difficult for someone to ask people to pay, and that's even more so as you have more success. I think it's easier when you're at 20, you have 20 viewers and all, just getting by, but you've had some success. You're probably doing better than some of your viewers that might be contributing, and so you feel awkward saying sub.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're unique in that. I think that's, and I completely, the thing you said that I think a lot of people feel is it's easy to say, oh, if you don't, want the ads, then go ahead and sub. And then you don't feel like you're pushing them to give your money. You're appreciative when they do, but you're not out there, jiggling your cup all the time.
Yeah, it always makes you feel uncomfortable when I see someone basically repeatedly reinforcing and incentivizing someone to keep gifting subs, and it's just one guy, and they're like a literal multimillionaire, and they're just sitting there like, I don't know, just getting money. Because whereas if lots of people use Twitch Prime or lots of people individually sub, it's one thing, but one person doing thousands and thousands of dollars worth is gifted, it's like, I don't know, there's certainly a different vibe there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is interesting the way Twitch does like solicit that support. As I mentioned, I've been streaming regularly now, at least once a week, and whenever I can, but usually it's once a week. And I really feel people will go ahead and sub to me and give me gift subs too, which anything I make from Twitch I go ahead and donate, because but it's always, I feel it's like, look, I'm doing well, I don't need you to do it, but they really feel good about doing it. They like the experience, and so that's why whatever they do give, I donate. But it's part of the Twitch experience, is feeling part of the community and subscribing, and people feel good about it. And even though I never encourage anyone to do anything, right, because I can't do that, I'm doing fine.
Any Twitch Primers you like in there farming subs, you the Twitch, I mean, yeah, it would be kind of weird.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It is funny because I have thought about the problem is my time. Doing it myself helps me a lot, and I'd love to, like, I have thought I'd love to do a subathon for charity, only because then I experience that what the streamers doing when they do a subathon, right? But of course I'd only do it if it was for charity, otherwise I'd feel really, really awkward.
Yeah, that's what I did for my subathon. I did a charity subathon. Just trying to think. Well, yeah, charity / mods, where I gave half. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's a way of ethically doing a subathon. Because what I like about subathons is that it's like an event, right? It's just you go to sleep, the chat's doing their own thing. They're kind of doing what they do. But then it's like it's not even necessarily about the money.
Yeah. But it's a fun thing to just like to experience.
Wait, speaking of subathons, actually, I just thought of something right now. Why is there a limit of 48 hours on a broadcast? Why can we not just keep streaming? Because it's super obviously annoying for subathons.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it is. I don't know exactly, but I think there may be some technical limitations from the way the VOD system works.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that they're not solvable, but it's that, all these, the whole system was built thinking that streams were not continuous, and so obviously it's solvable. You have to cut the VOD, and then, right, because it can't just, the file just can't keep growing, because, people would stream for literally thousands of hours. It's also the fact, I will say this, that I know it's, anyway, I don't know exactly, but I'm sure there's a technical reason in there. it doesn't mean it's not solved.
If it's like 2 lines of code to just have it so the board just splits every
It's
24
not 2
hours.
lines of code. I guarantee you it's not 2 lines of code.
I'm just saying, if it was, you know, you just be like, hey, is it 2 lines of code? And then, you know, they just go, bang, you know, oh shit, we can now stream infinite. That would be badass. But yeah, it's probably, it's probably really complicated.
Yeah. That is usually the case. That's the thing about software. You build it one way and you have certain assumptions in your mind and you write the code one way with this like representative example and you don't think of this other example. And then, you know, 3 years later it comes up and it's like, shit, if I had written that code differently, this would be easy to fix, but I didn't write it differently.
Damn. Yeah, that sucks. Okay. I'm going to change the subject a bit. This is a TOS. Lots of TOS stuff here. So, you're the CEO of Twitch. Have you ever banned someone, or have you ever been on like a board to like ban someone?
Nope.
You have no meetings, so you don't zero engagement.
They will. No, I mean I'm very aware of the banning process. I look at the banning process. I like there'll be a few issues that might. I'll say it rises to my awareness, but we completely design the system so that I'm not, the person who leads our trust and safety, we want to create this independence, right? Because it's really important for us to drive consistency. So there have certainly been cases that have been brought to my, I've been informed of it and of the decision they are making. And I would have the latitude to override if I felt like, no, this is wrong. I can tell you, I've never, leveraged that latitude that I have because I think the system, they have a reasonable process for it.
Okay, so what guides the design of the system, or like the TOS? How does that work?
So first of all, just for clarity, as you're talking about the TOS. Most bans are not because of the terms of service, but it's because of the community guidelines. And just for folks to not get the two things confused, because they are two different sets of
how do you mean it's different? So there's like the TOS and the community. I always saw them as the same thing. It's like rules of Twitch. You break the rules, you get got.
One way to think of it is the TOS is sort of, certain things that, it is an actual separate document in terms of service and what, is, allowed and not allowed. Then we have community guidelines, which is much more about your behavior. Okay. So the things you're doing, okay. Like how you behave, how you interact. So it's more about harassment and, hate and content and stuff like that. So it's just, there are two different documents. If you search for community guidelines versus terms of service, you'll find two different documents. So it's important because but let's go to the core of your question. Getting this right is tricky. Okay. And in fact, I do think this is an area where we can do better. We used to have a great deal of inconsistency in how we apply terms. Okay. And where bigger streamers, it was more lenient than smaller streamers. Okay. Which is not the way it should be. There should be a common set of guidelines. It doesn't matter if you're big or small. We apply the same sets of criteria for this. So that's something we worked a lot on to ensure we drive consistency in terms of how we apply it. So for any given statement in the community guidelines, we have a set of the way in which the operators enforce it and evaluate it, and then that goes through a process where people check it and approve it before we take an action.
Okay. All right. Okay, so in terms of the TOS, I guess my biggest gripe is the fact that I feel like it's often there's like a gray area, right? And it's not like it's set in stone what you can do and what you can't do. It's like, okay, well, can I talk about the subject, or am I going to just get my account deleted? And it's like, I don't know. Is there any plans to like further clarify or make it more set in stone and specific?
So the challenge is, in fact, we've actually tried hard. It used to be a lot grayer, that we'd have high-level words that then had detailed meanings in the back scene that people would use. but we wouldn't put that on our website. So if you looked at our community guidelines 3 years ago and you looked at our community guidelines now, you'll see our community guidelines have a lot more specificity. Okay, because we've tried to be much more crisp about what happens. Now, first of all, the reality is some of these things, they just are gray. You know, in terms of, you know, when are you interacting with someone in jest, and when does this get to really hate and harassment, right? And where you are doing like, no, that's freaking bullshit. They shouldn't be able to do that. Now, I will say this as you talk about getting your account suspended. The stuff that you get your account suspended for is almost never in the gray area. It's like well, the suspensions almost never happen in the gray area.
What's crazy to me though is the fact that you can have, you know, I'm talking 400 milliseconds of a frame of like a single nipple show, and that can be grounds to suspend you for a couple of days. And whereas, but you can play a video game that has full-on video nudity, like a sexual act, and you can watch that, and it's like, okay, so in context, someone put like a little bit of nudity in a video, and I got for that, right, or something. Where I was playing, I had, for example, I almost got banned for a skin I had in a computer game where this monster technically had like a tiny, like 3 pixels of a penis we took in, and it's like, and then there's these full-on ultra sexual, ultra.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how come you get? Where is the? That doesn't make sense to me, right? That's.
By the way, I agree with you. Part of the challenge, I don't disagree that. In fact, there are these things that are small incidental things that happen, and those things shouldn't add up to where then you're negatively impacted because they're small incidental things, this is one of the challenges in doing this because we have to deal with thousands upon thousands of these. But I do think it's fair to say that we need to get better in terms of certain things just being warnings, just being, hey, you know, and you know, this shouldn't have happened, versus leading to some type of suspension or action. And the longer you stream, the more likely that just little shit happens. Right. And that is challenging for a creator. And I'm very empathetic to that problem because you're worried. This is your livelihood. Right.
I literally had PTSD or something. Whenever I got banned, I'd have flashbacks and I'd be having nightmares about showing, because it's like, all of a sudden you're chilling and then something happens and your gut drops and you're like, holy crap. And then you get a message from Twitch. Oh, you're suspended, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and obviously in context, you didn't mean to do anything wrong. And I feel like it's, depending on what the kind of content you're doing, it's almost an inevitability that something will happen eventually. If you're like a type of streamer who kind of like starts up just chatting, looking at videos, talking to the chat, clicking on stuff, eventually something's going to happen. You're going to have like a slip up, unless you're like, you know, very, very, very careful about it, which I think a lot of streamers are.
The reality is, you know, another way to say this is, how often in life do people say things that they wish they didn't say? Yeah. And of course, this happens all the time where it's like, oh, you know, you're in a fight with your wife or your partner, and then you say something, you're like, okay, I really shouldn't have said that. That was stupid. Right. And now they're, you know, yelling at you like, what do you mean I don't? It's like, no, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. I just said it. I'm sorry. And yeah, so I think this is an area that we're constantly looking at to try and make it so that what I'll call our foot faults, you know, are, and it's fair to say some people are always trying to get to the line because this is a challenge. It is ambiguous. And some people are like, let me get as close to the line as possible.
That's an archetype of streamer, right? That's because I was going to ask about that. What's your opinion on streamers who their literal existence is in the gray area and they push whatever content they possibly can as close to like what they can get away with. So they have like a, you know, a hot tub that they're in their room, and it's technically it's a pool now, so now they can do whatever. And there's like little loopholes. Like when you see people repeatedly abusing that who've been banned 9 times, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so my general sense is this is why I think it does end up. It's one thing where you're in general not close to the line, but then something happens and you know, trip over it. there's another thing if you're always pushing the line. And if you're always pushing the line, then it seems like you're taking some risk. I don't think you should necessarily get permanently banned, but it might be if you want to play that game, then at some point you're going to step over the line, and then it's going to add up, and at some point you'll be suspended. And that's okay. You're consciously like going up to the line. And this is true no matter where we put the line, right? No matter where we put the line, there'll be some people say, well, I'm going to go right up to the line.
Yeah.
Okay, you move the line here, someone will go. You move the line here, some people will go there. And for those people that are just always trying to go to the line, they're going to step over sometimes. It'll add up, and then they'll have a suspension. I'm like, okay, that seems like the way it should work. You're talking about the concern of someone who's not hanging out on the line all the time, right? But then something happens, and those two situations are very different, right? The person who's always pushing the line, I don't have that much sympathy that they end up getting a week ban, from going up to the line all the time.
Okay.
Right? Because the whole point is I don't want you to, there is a line there, and I understand if you always go up to the line, you might step over it a bunch. So then as opposed to freaking going up to the line, don't go right up to the line all the time.
What about not just weak timeouts? What about indefinite bans? What about someone who's had their account and they've just been gone and they haven't got an email message? Because I personally, I know of someone who I'm relatively acquainted with who's banned. And I don't even think they should be banned from Twitch. And I tried messaging my partner manager and being like, well, is there anything we can do? And they said no. And so, what do you do if someone that you genuinely believe shouldn't be banned off the website is banned? What kind of recourse do they have?
What kind of recourse? Yeah, it's something I'm very empathetic to those people. In fact, a number of folks have reached out to me, and it is an issue, especially in terms of reinstatement. It's like, okay, there are a lot of people that reach out to me and say, look, I screwed up. I shouldn't have done it. And it was right to ban me, but can I get another chance? And so we're trying to figure out a scalable process that we can do that while still maintaining safety, because some offenses are not foot faults. They're like, no, that was like it's not a small thing, that was like an egregious thing. You were going after and doxing this streamer, and then you did a bunch of stuff that was like pretty egregious shit to another streamer, right? And you had them, you went on stream and you were swatting this streamer and doxing him.
Yeah,
that's not a whoops. Sorry about that, guys.
No, that's messed up.
And so there's some offenses that are like, sorry, man, we don't need you streaming. But there are more than enough cases. There are a ton of cases where you say, this is a person who building a community. Yeah, they might have been going over the line. They may have, they were younger. Now they've matured. So it's something we're looking at.
What about someone who was on the platform from like Justin TV streaming, literally started an entire section, an entire new genre on Twitch at a movement, and was, generally speaking, kind of edgy and did, I guess cross the line, but not in a necessarily bad or a toxic way. And then they were indefinitely just removed from the website. And what would you do in my situation if that person was banned and you don't think they should be banned? Like what would you do if you were me? To be fair, I'm referring to Destiny, to not be like what would you just to be clear and specific.
And so I'm not going to talk about any specific case, right? Because a specific case, all I'll say, this is an area that we are looking at to figure out what's the right way to give people another chance. The tricky thing to do, you need to do this in a scalable way, because all this is not like it. Whenever you talk about one specific example, it's one specific example. But people forget that we need to have a similar opportunity for that affiliate that had five concurrent viewers that did it, as we do for this big streamer that did it. Yeah. Because, there are a lot of small streamers that, were, and so figuring out a way that you do this where when you give people a second chance, you do it scalably, and you do it fair is important, and that just takes some time to figure out how to do that right, where you're still protecting the community. But it's in it. This is what I'd say. It's something we're looking at to try to figure out how we can do that in a scalable way.
Well, another question, I guess, and to make it scalable, what about have you guys ever considered, instead of, because the way I say right now, an indefinite ban where you just get banned and you can't communicate with Twitch and you can't, get nothing happens, right? What about instead of like the death penalty, which is this indefinite permaban, you just said, okay, this person did something that's really bad, with like a 2-year ban or like a 1-year ban, something that's like, oh, they did something really messed up, or like it was pretty bad but not so bad that they should be permanently removed.
Well, I think whether you say it's a 1-year or 2-year ban, or you say you have, to be clear, it's an indefinite ban, which doesn't necessarily mean that whether or not you have it where you say it's 2 years, or you say after 2 years you can apply for reinstatement, kind of the same thing. Right? Okay. In other words, and then there's some judgment involved, because let me use an example. Suppose someone was really toxic. They were toxic on Twitch and they got banned. And then they went and they've been toxic on every other platform they're on. And they're toxic on Twitter and they're toxic, right? And 2 years comes up and they've been toxic all over the internet. I'm like, no, I'm not going to let them back on. They're toxic on every platform they're on. They're going to come back on and be toxic. Okay. Which is very different than someone who, is not like they've now been doing stuff on other platforms, which are quite reasonable and, not toxic. So I think the right way is to have a process where you can reapply, and then you look to make sure, is this person like, going to be wanting to adhere to the guidelines, or are they just going to get banned again in 2 months? Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could be some sort of process where, you check, like it comes up and, and it's like, okay, they get to have a check. All right, no, it's still banned. And you mentioned before, it needs to be scalable, if you're going to make a system like this. Do you not think that streamers who have larger communities and more viewers and stuff bring more people to the platform, so then therefore they would deserve having more resources allocated in terms of, looking into their case and like what the specifics were?
So they certainly bring more people to the platform. So if I was doing this, what is good for Twitch, right? Then it is fair for us to say, oh, I don't care about the little guy. Let me just figure out a way to do it for these 5, these streamers. A big part of Twitch, though, like for those medium-sized guys, that feels really unfair. They understand that they may drive a lot of value to the platform because they're big, but it's sort of like, that's kind of bullshit. Let's take, for example, suppose we're talking about just the criminal justice system. Nobody here thinks it's fair that big rich people get less penalties than people that are poorer in terms of criminal justice. You feel like, no, our system should be indifferent from whether you are a big successful person or you're a poor person. We should treat you the same. So I do think fairness is like, Twitch is like the community and the long tail of streamers are so important. So if it takes a little longer, that this is something that has been around for a while, doing it so that it is fair. Because if we do it once off just for big streamers, then everyone's like, well, like, does Twitch care about me? And the magic of Twitch are so many of those, whether it's 50 or 25 or 125 ACCB streamers, you used to be there. Those communities are a huge part of Twitch. There's just so many people in the communities. But a huge part of Twitch are those more intimate communities.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. But then also, I at the same time, I also think it's like, I don't want to be, no, fair enough. Maybe there could be a threshold.
Right. The challenge here is that slippery slope of saying, but they're a big person, but that becomes a slippery slope in terms of how you think about the company and how you run the company. And it's tough once you start favoring them in certain tangible ways like that it doesn't keep happening more and more. And I think one reason for Twitch's success, I mean, let's just take trust and safety policies. We should have a common policy, whether you're big or medium. We shouldn't be harsher on the medium people. So I think it's important. I think we'll be able to do both.
Yeah. Okay. I was trying to think of a more practical approach. Well, because if you can't have a full-on trial and a process and a meeting for literally every single person. That's just not scale.
We don't need to. The reality is for smaller folks, this issue of them being toxic on other platforms, well, they don't have a reach on other platforms. They probably haven't. Like, I don't know what they've been doing on other platforms. I don't need to do that, right? I can do a process that is much more streamlined if someone's smaller.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's more concrete, if that makes sense. It's more like, all right, you had 28, because the impact of, like, then you can build a process that works so that you don't spend as much time on the 20 concurrent viewer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Okay, 100%. All right. And then I guess, yeah, that, and then another way for people who are indefinitely banned to reach out, because I still don't even know, like, obviously I had that specific example. That would be cool, because, yeah, it does feel, it does keep me up at night when I see people who I think shouldn't be banned, who are banned, and it's like, well, is that just going to be me one day, right? Like,
no,
in this stasis.
I mean, sometimes it literally keeps me up because someone will ping me and tell me their story, and I am very aware of the fact that, and it's not just your livelihood. It's the community you build, right? And then when you get bigger, you have this combination, your livelihood and the community, that you miss it.
100%. Okay, so this is a bit of a change of subject a tad here, but in terms of TOS and banning and all that, so I've been experienced being banned a few times, and multiple times I've been banned and then I've appealed. And then it's like, oh yeah, actually no, you didn't do anything wrong in context. My bad, unban. Why can you only appeal after the ban is initiated? Like, should there not be like a thing for partner streamers, or a way to appeal before the ban goes through? Because it's like,
meaning, or another way to put it, should you be able to delay when the ban starts? So that however long the appeal takes, you're not suspended during that period. I think
especially when they say, oh yeah, you didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, my bad. And then it's like, you've already been banned. Everyone already made a bunch of Twitter posts about you saying, oh, it was because of this. You did this, that, And it's like, the damage was kind of already be done. And then you're unbanned, and that was like, oh yeah, my bad. But then it's kind of, it doesn't make sense why you can't. I mean, I get if someone's live streaming, like, some like explicit content, you need to take that down immediately, right? For sure. But if it's not being able to appeal until after you're banned, just that's a question.
No, I understand what you're saying. I was, first of all, the there are, as we talk about appeals, let me break down things. First of all, there's some appeals because there was account takeover. Okay, and most of the appeals that were granted is because someone took over someone's account and they weren't actually doing it, right? It is a tiny fraction of appeals of people saying, oh, I didn't really do it, that then it turns out, no, they really didn't do it.
Well, I mean, I've seen that happen. It's happened to me. It's happened to me. And it's happened to people. I know.
So, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does happen. And I think your idea, especially for someone that, I think this is an example where it's not unreasonable to have a slightly different policy for someone who's bigger than smaller, because someone who's bigger gets a lot more people that are coming after and reporting them, because sometimes that's a pattern. Someone, wants to come after you, and so they report you. So I think that's an interesting idea, where it's like you have 48 hours to appeal or 24 hours to appeal, and the ban, takes effect unless it's some egregious. I think that's an interesting thought.
I can give you a great example as well, like to help like strengthen, the position of this thing happening. So there's a guy, and I'm using another specific example. There's a guy called Zico. He's like the friendliest EU streamer, plays World of Warcraft all day. He's the nicest guy ever. Like, literally, he's like a Twitch, what are they called? Like the ultra partners, like an ambassador. Yeah. He's like an ambassador.
Yep.
And he was just playing Arena, and he said something. He was just speaking really quickly, like, freeze that guy, and then there's a clip where it kind of sounded like he's saying the F slur, but he clearly wasn't, right? If you know in context. And then he was instantly banned, couldn't appeal. He was removed from this Twitch Rivals tournament, couldn't do it, and he had no way of getting out of that until the appeal process went through. And it was like, that seems like a broken system when, you know, your literal Twitch ambassadors, nicest guys on the platform, you know, getting instantly
No,
done
I
with, and you
agree.
go,
I mean,
yeah.
interestingly, there was an example of this in France, where they had an AI a stream that was basically an AI bot,
Yeah.
and somebody asked the AI bot to name the 10 worst named French cities. And there's one French city that when you translate it is a really egregious anti-Semitic phrase. I won't repeat it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But all the AI bot was doing was saying the cities, right? That were the city names. But then, and the person who did this, I think, was purposely trying to trick
obviously.
the AI bot to say this.
Yeah.
And then it got reported, and somebody looked at it and just heard somebody saying it, and they didn't have the context, and so the AI bot got banned. And then they looked at it, and so I think I think it's a good call out as something to consider, so that you don't have there's some period, especially I don't feel that bad if that's something that you do just for bigger streamers, because I do think the impact of being offline for 5 days is much bigger when you're a bigger streamer than if you're a small streamer.
Well, damage is done. Even if you're banned for 2 days, people like come up with these crazy hypotheses and speculation as to what happened, and they just go for like, they imagine the worst possible thing, and it's like, yeah,
right. And if you're a small streamer, that doesn't matter. I mean,
yeah.
you know.
What about? I mean, even just messaging the person who you think, maybe I'm not sure if this is a ban. Let me just message them beforehand to check, like, hey, was this what you were intending? But then maybe, I don't know, maybe they would just lie every time.
I think your other idea. I think the idea that you know, there's some window like where you can appeal, and if you are appealing, then it waits till the appeal, especially if the band is, you know, a longer band that, you know, really impacts you. So I think it's an interesting idea. I think it's an interesting idea for someone of a certain size.
Awesome. In terms of the emails, the ban emails, I'm talking about banning a lot, but is it intentionally designed to be very vague and non-specific, or is it, or like, could they not just give us more information, like, oh yeah, you were specifically banned at this VOD for this timestamp for this thing?
No, in fact, what we want to do is get to where we send you a VOD, a link to a VOD of exactly, you know, the offense.
That'd be so much better. That'd be like 100,000% better. Oh yeah.
No. Agreed. We want you to be able to that. They're actually a lot more specific now than they used to be. Where now they tell you the exact thing that you are violated for. But what we want to do is get to where we then send you a clip of where you can look and see what you did.
That'd be so much better, because I know, for example, the person I was talking about who was banned indefinitely, he didn't even know why he was banned for the longest time, and he had to get like a Twitch insider to even find out, which is just like, that's crazy.
No, I agree. It's like, I don't. Maybe I did do something wrong. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't remember doing something so egregious, but you know, it's a long 7-hour stream.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna change the subject now, because people are getting pissed off that I'm talking about TOS so much. I mean, obviously I'm a Twitch streamer. I really care about like lots of this Twitch, you know, the Twitch memes. And you're the Twitch CEO. I don't know why chat's complaining about like me talking about Twitch stuff. Okay. But
by the way, hold on. We didn't get a chance. Then maybe I'll pivot for a second and talk about why I'm in a band. How about that?
Yeah, 100%. Let's go.
All right. So let's see. So I'm a big music fan. I've always been a big music fan, and I had decided to come to this music festival, the Americana Music Festival, which is in Nashville. And one thing I've been doing is whenever I travel, I meet with streamers, which has been great. But I haven't been to the Southeast, and you know, as this is a testament, streamers are everywhere. And so I decided to go ahead, and I was going to do a tour of the Southeast U.S., where I rented a Sprinter van, and that's what I'm doing right now, where I flew into Tampa, I rented the Sprinter van, met with some streamers in Tampa, went to Atlanta. Now I'm up in Nashville. I'm going to go over to North Carolina, back down to Florida. And so basically taking about a month where I'm traveling around. When I get a chance, I go ahead and stream. And here I'll turn the camera so you can see. I brought my piano.
Holy.
Okay. And in fact, if my voice wasn't so hoarse, I'd say, "Oh, I'll do a song or something." But my voice is very hoarse. And so yeah, so basically, I like when I'm in Nashville, I do have a hotel right now. But a lot of times I'll actually be in meetings from the van, and then I go and have dinner or lunch or whatever with some streamers, and it's been a great trip.
That's awesome. Like the fact that you're actually just out there, like doing it and living it. You know, I mean, you ain't messing around. I mean, I've never done anything like that. That's crazy. I mean, I know how
Yeah.
hard it is just going to a single convention. Whereas you're basically just like every other day you're doing another convention.
Yeah.
It's so
And I
to
should
speak.
mention, by the way, I look a little strange. People are like, "Why the heck does he have that on his head?" One of the artists I like, his name is Charles Wesley Godwin. A wonderful artist, kind of Americana artist, that can't say enough good things about. So check him out. I went to a record release of his this morning, and he wears his band when he performs, and they had them out there. So I was like, "Oh, I'll go ahead and put the band on." I look like the Karate Kid now that I look at this. Like,
I'm getting kind of happy
anyway,
vibes.
yeah, so,
It's certainly happy vibes, and on top of that, it's disarming. So it makes you like far less intimidating. You know, when you're wearing, if you came up like wearing a suit, and like all well dressed and stuff, I'd be like, yeah, where is it?
Yeah.
This is like literally from a van with a bandana on. I mean, that's chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what? My mod has just informed me that I missed a TOS question that he really wants to know about. So I'm gonna get. Is it gonna be toxic if I ask one more TOS question?
Nope. Go right ahead.
When you cast, when you stream
Simulcasting.
Simulcasting. What? So why is it against the TOS? Or why can't we just do it?
So first of all, if you remember, it used to be that partners, we had exclusivity.
Yeah.
Right? Where you could never stream on another platform. Okay,
cool.
if you're a partner. And then for affiliates, simulcasting was prohibited. We got rid of the exclusivity, which was something I pushed hard because I felt like that doesn't make sense. That, what you do on your own time is like your business, right? We shouldn't prohibit you from doing whatever you want to do when you're not streaming on Twitch. When we got rid of that, we kept the simulcasting prohibition that we had for affiliates, and it de facto was for partners too, because they couldn't ever stream. It's certainly one thing. In fact, I had a meeting the other day talking about it. With it, we have the ability to grant authorizations for people to simulcast. One of the things, it is important for streamers to be engaging with their community. That is a big part of what makes Twitch work well, is that the streamers are present with their community. It is not just a matter of, hold on, let me get the camera, of, the fact that the streamer responds to the community, engages with the community. When you're simulcasting, sometimes you can get distraction on like other communities. Also, there are things that happen on other platforms that we don't allow. But it's something that we're continuing to look at because we're very aware that for some streamers that like to do it, certainly as you think of events, it works well. As for clarity for everyone, we do allow folks on TikTok and Instagram. That is not prohibited in terms of simulcasting there. But we're looking at a more scalable way where we can, grant ability to simulcast. And then also that allows us to assess to see, listen, is this benefiting streamers and are people still engaging with their community? Because it is important for people to focus on their community. And everyone simulcasting all the time, I don't think is necessarily good for that experience, because then there's something about the interaction you have in your chat. And when you're talking to, whoever, so I'm looking at mine right now, See Me No More, who may be one of your, I don't know if he's someone from my chat or from yours, your chat gets to learn each other's names. They know each other. They have and that like matters on Twitch. So we want people to focus on their Twitch community, because that's one reason why the community is special. We don't want the Twitch community to be a sort of second class, because no, I'm just paying attention to everyone, because I think that does degrade the Twitch experience. But we're looking at ways where we can, test to see if that's really a problem or not.
Well, you can definitely. There's people have solved it, as they have like a website and they have a combined chat. where you just log in with like either Twitch or YouTube or whatever platform, and then they can just type, and it's like a combined chat, which I don't know, maybe there could be sort of integration.
It is the challenge here
from Twitch.
Yeah, the challenge when you get to the combined chat is, of course, we don't control what the policies are around what people in other chat can say. Okay, when someone behaves inappropriately in our chat, we spend a lot of time making sure we try to keep those people off of Twitch. The toxic Twitch chat can sometimes be the thing that creates a toxic environment, and for other people in chat. I'm not a fan of combined chat because we don't control what other platforms let people, and we cannot take action against someone. So the reality is Twitch is the way Twitch is because of we provide a safe environment. We think about both the viewers, and we spend a lot of time on it. And so I'm not a massive fan that a combined chat is a great experience for the Twitch experience.
Yeah,
for those people watching you on Twitch.
I can feel that. But then at the same time, I can definitely see why simulcasting can be absolutely beneficial and good for large-scale events. If you're doing some big event.
And for large-scale events, and let's be clear, that's where they're different things. Like, a large-scale event, to be frank, you're not interacting intently with your chat as much in a large-scale event. Right? Yeah. I mean, like, there's some event, it's often the event, and your chat's talking with each other, and you're checking in on them. It's very different than when you're doing a just chatting stream and you're engaging with your chat. So, and your daily stream. So I think different events, different streams are different with respect to this. And I think events, as it is, like esports events as an example, that's like, that doesn't matter, right? Simulcasting isn't a problem. So,
or even not even just esports. What about your own, just even your own events, your own mini?
No, your own event. I think that is one of the things you want to do. There's one thing, which is I'm doing an event I want to simulcast, right? That's different than I want to simulcast every stream that I stream on, right? Those are two different things because events are very different. We do think that what makes Twitch special is how much we focus on the community. I don't think, as I said earlier, the phrase community-centric live streaming, I think we're unique. We need to protect that, but events are like almost certainly not a problem. And I think even other stuff, as long as you're engaging with your Twitch chat, then you're giving your Twitch chat that experience they're looking for.
Yeah, I can feel that. Okay, do you mind if I quickly use the bathroom for like 1 second?
Nope.
The one that you can take out, guys. Go to Clancy's chat and talk to him. Okay, because I'll be right. Like literally, and I promise I'm not gonna do any more. Actually, basically what I've got next is some more fun questions and stuff about Twitch features. So to like be more chill vibe.
Okay, let's do this. Why don't we get into rapid fire round on questions?
Rapid fire round. Okay, I'm down. I'm down for rapid fire round. You want to pop off?
Because you have 2 pages, and sometimes we can go on and on. So we're gonna force it to be rapid fire.
Oh, okay. So you were speaking of your you were speaking about all your streaming setup and your OBS and stuff. Do you use any streaming tools like StreamerBot or anything like that? Any tools?
So I use a lot because I do some IRL streaming. So I use LiveView. I use Run IRL. I haven't spent as much. Like I haven't set up Stream Elements yet. I should. So most of my time in getting into all this like streamer tech has been to support IRL streaming, and I've gotten pretty good at it. I haven't gotten into some of the other tools yet, but I will. It's good. It just takes time. There's so much to learn.
Hell yeah. Okay, this one's a spicy one. LSF. I don't know if you even know what that even means. It's a Reddit.
So I don't always know the acronyms, but I do know that acronym. It's funny because some people mention an acronym. I'm like, what is that? Somebody did that the other day in a meeting where they used an acronym of something we're launching, and they said MDF. I'm like, what the heck is MDF? And I thought it was something I should know. I'm very, very familiar with live stream fails.
Oh, you are? Do you browse it? What's the deal?
I mean, I certainly get links to live stream fails. I can't tell you I browse it, that much. I do sometimes. It is good, to browse every now and then, but it's not something I like. It's not in my daily habit, let's put it.
Yeah. No, there are a bunch of degenerates over there, that Reddit thread, let me tell you. Okay, thoughts on the React meta? So, all this apparently streamers have even been rejected from like partner program because their content is primarily React. Like, as reacting, to YouTube videos all day. Is that
interesting? I had not heard of anybody being rejected from partner because their content was React content. I think React content. I mean, my view is, streaming is all about some stimulus that you react to. Gaming is a stimulus you react to. I've always said Twitch is a talk platform where people happen to game. The reason people give money isn't because your thumbs are fast on the controller. It's because they like you as a person. They connect with you as a person. There's an emotional connection. And that can extend to React videos, right? Because you're just looking for something that, keeps you going.
So you're pro React meta then? So they aren't like subhuman or anything? Like, they're actually contributing to the platform?
I mean, yeah, how can I mean, look, Hassan is predominantly a React creator, right? One of our biggest creators, a huge thing that he does is he reacts to things.
Big true.
Right? So,
yeah, he's a React screw for sure.
Yeah, I mean, how can I if it's a challenge if I don't like React streaming when our biggest talk creator, that's the foundation of his platform. I have no problems with React streaming.
Classic.
It's something that I put on my list that, I should probably do more.
Hell yeah. No, it's let me tell you, speaking as a fellow, I mean, I'm like a hybrid streamer. I do gaming, I do whatever, I do cooking streams, and then I'll do React sometimes. Let me tell you, it's fun. Yeah. It's like watching YouTube videos with the boys.
The point is, you just need a seed to get you going, and then you get going, right? And it's like, oh wait, now I'm going to talk about this. Oh wait, now I'm going to talk about this.
Yo, do you know what Twitch needs to do? Okay, you need to like hit up Amazon or whatever and let us straight up just watch the Amazon video, like movies, so we can just react to the boys.
Well, we had we have a feature called Watch Parties where you can do that. The problem is the way the rights go for all that stuff. In fact, actually, for the boys, you can do that. I think the Watch Parties feature is still alive.
They have to have like Prime accounts. I mean, like straight up, just watch it like you watch a React video. Like not with all that's in it, because the reason why I haven't done it is because of there's too much in between me and watching it, and it's like
I agree. By the way, I don't disagree. The challenge there is the rights is just in general, people do not have global rights, and Amazon Prime doesn't have global rights except for their original videos.
Damn. One day you can, I can dream.
Yeah.
What do you think about early access games?
I'm curious why I wouldn't like. Is there any reason why I wouldn't like early access games?
Well, there's different types of early access. I'm predominantly speaking about ones where you basically, so you pay like an extra $30 and then you can play a game 5 days early. Ethical or?
How is it not? Yeah, it's certainly ethical. I mean, the movies, allow you to pay to watch it in advance at home. So I don't see why it wouldn't be ethical.
Yeah. No, I mean, I am kind of memeing the word they use, ethical. It's like, they just have an advantage. It's kind of can be seen as like a bit predatory, right? It's a single player game and you can just pay money. Yeah, it's like it's a bit of a meme in the community.
But if you will, I can understand why some players don't like that because it gives folks a one-up and all that. But and this, maybe this is going to be a clip that is a news flash. Gaming companies are trying to make money in a variety of ways, and in fact, many people. I would say if I think of my son who and some of the games and some of his frustrations, and I won't mention which games and which gaming companies. And with the things they do in terms of that he feels like it really hurts his experience in the way they're making money. To me, I think this is small compared to some of the other things they do that drive revenue for them. So my sense, in the end, all that advantage washes out. 6 months into it, if they make a great game, the fact that somebody played it 5 days early, maybe it matters at the beginning, but that won't matter in 2 months.
100%. They should just be making good games, and then people will just play them, right? And then because they're good games, it's like that'd be the dream. Yeah. I mean, even probably more Twitch specific question in terms of the early access and all that. What do you think about gaming companies? I can just name names. Like there's a bunch of companies that do it, where basically if you're going to say positive things about a game, then they will give early access to select whitelisted streamers So then that way you can play it first, and then they get the good publicity of them saying positive things about the game. You know, and then the streamer gets the growth because they have exclusivity to that game.
Yep.
And then it creates like shills, basically. They're just creating a bunch of paid actors.
Yeah, I mean, they are paid actors. Now, I think most people realize that they're paid actors. I do think, by the way, you know, we do now have it where when you have some sponsorship, and this is, you can argue a form of sponsorship, you need to call it out, you know, so that somebody knows, hey, I'm being paid to say this. So I do think it's like, and to the extent, like, and they can mark their stream saying, listen, I'm sponsored by so-and-so to do this. To me, that's kind of like a sponsorship, so that people know that they're getting paid for it. But I don't think this is a secret. You know, in other words, gamers make a lot of money because gaming companies pay them to play their games. Streamers do, right? And I think you'd be forthright, but I doubt many of your viewers are surprised that it's pretty well known. So as long as people know it, I mean, you know,
well, if
I watched.
I don't know. If everyone's doing it, it's like a race to the bottom where more and more people are now starting to change their opinions and be like a lot more tame and reserved, so then they can gain access. And then it's like everyone's doing it.
Yeah. So, but this is in part the world. Like streamers make a lot of money from sponsorships, right? I don't know about you, okay, but many streamers, sponsorships can be 50% of their income, right? It's tough for me to be judgmental of something that are a significant part of allowing streamers to fund their lives. Okay. And it's easy to sit there and say, oh, you shouldn't do that. Well, they're the ones trying to make their ends meet. And I think it should be disclosed. But we do live, you know, this happens like everywhere, right? You know, in other words, LeBron James and Nike and Michael, like, you know, this is the world we live in. And in terms of commercials and sponsorship and money going in that direction. So I guess I don't feel this need to say, oh, but in our world, somehow we're going to be able to avoid that because it is an important part of their livelihood.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. I guess the main thing is when you make sure they have hashtag and their title, you know, so that's why it's transparent.
That way people know it.
Yeah.
People know that, you know, that they're doing it for that. But I will tell you, this is what I will say, that a huge part of a streamer's popularity is their authenticity, because their community builds a connection with them. And streamers that are not authentic in engaging with their community, and eventually their community feels like they're just a shill for some product and they don't believe in their product. Personally, I have some questions about that. In general, that streamer's ability to maintain their community.
Well,
or if it's a community I would want to maintain.
I think you're you're ascribing too much, I don't know, to the viewer's understanding of a situation. I feel like people don't even know. Like, I feel like a lot of the people who are the worst people think are actually the best people. And a lot of people, you know, people consider to be bad, have this awful, like, this bad optics, but they're actually some of the best people. And it's like, you know, they can't really discern that.
Let's assume this is actually a pretty crappy game.
Yeah.
Okay, let's assume it's not that good of a game.
Starfield.
But a streamer is ranting about that game. And so I go play the game. Right? And then I'm like, well, this game kind of sucks. Okay. Then I'm like, okay, but so-and-so kept saying what a good game it is. All right. Maybe we just disagree on it. Then it happens again 6 months later where he said, oh, this is the killer game, man, killer game. And I go and play, and I was like, well, that game kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Okay. That certainly erodes trust.
100%. 100%.
Right? So now if it's a good game, if it's a subtle between there being, it is a good game, you know, in other words, so let's take some of the games where this has happened, Valorant or Diablo or, you know, Starfield, where it is a good game. You know?
What's your take on Diablo 4? Actually, that's a question I've got. Like, what's your take on
D4? I don't have takes on individual games because I'm not a gamer. I'm too old. When I was young, they did not have consoles, so I didn't start gaming when I was young. My son games a lot. I've gamed with him some. But so I just don't have an opinion on be it Valorant or Diablo 4. Or
Damn.
I know my son is real excited about Starfield, and I'm like, oh, I should play Starfield. But I'm rather busy right now.
What about Starfield? So you're saying you don't have any opinions, but like what are the vibes you picked up from the people you know around you and all that, like stuff? Any Starfield vibes?
The vibes I've heard were very positive about Starfield.
Okay.
I know I was just talking with some streamers and they were jamming on it. They thought, oh wow, this is really cool.
God damn. Fair enough. Damn, I was just hoping you to say D4 bad or something. It's a meme in my community because D4 is but I mean you could just say it. You could just say.
To say what? Wait, you want me to say what?
D4 bad.
D4 bad? Oh, because you want me to criticize Diablo. Now I see what you're trying to get me to do here.
Yeah.
I'm not falling into your trap. And there's gonna be a clip there where I'm like ragging on Diablo 4.
Yeah, it's already been clipped.
I will say one of the funny things that I've in talking with streamers, it's so clear. There are certain games where if you don't like the game, no matter how much you like a streamer, you can't watch them play that game because you just don't like the game. And I think this is one of the challenges. Whereas other games like Among Us, you can watch anyone playing Among Us, right? Or Level Up or things like that. But Diablo 4, there are certain ones that people are just so passionate, and it's like, no, I can't watch that game, and and it seems like for your community, is Diablo 4 in that negative camp? You don't like it?
Well, I'm a Diablo guy. I play a lot of Diablo, and Diablo 4 was just a massive letdown compared to what it could have been. It was it's just an alright game. It's just a slightly above average game, but it's, we're hoping it's going to be the second coming of Christ. Yeah. Okay. Now to go into the Twitch features category. So you want to we can just rapid fire because I feel like a lot of these maybe it's kind of like technical, but like for example, NVIDIA.
Yeah, your audience, we can't wonk out too much. Your community be like, come on, guys.
Yeah, the streamer stuff. Streamers talking about streamer Andy stuff. They don't like it, but this is important, okay? Because this affects the viewers. AV1 encoding, it's far more efficient apparently. And you get more bang for your buck with bitrate. What's that? Can you not just code that in? How does that work?
No. So the challenge is, and hold on, I want to text someone that. So AV1, it costs a fair amount for us to add that. For those who don't know, transcode is, and AV1 is a new technology in terms of video encoding. And whenever we get a stream, then we transcode it. And it costs us a lot to transcode it. And adding AV1 is expensive to add to the transcode. Now, it's cheaper when we stream it because it gets the same quality with fewer bits. But because the AV1 adoption is still low, the savings we get doesn't offset what is a meaningful cost. But we're actually getting ready to do some stuff with client-side transcoding, and so we have a pathway where we're in a little while we should be able to talk to. I can explain to you the pathway to where we get to AV1. Well, I think there is a pathway.
How can we adopt it though if it's not possible to? Because it's just a setting in OBS. You just click AV1, bang. But you try to Twitch doesn't exist.
I mean adoption on the viewer side in the browsers.
Oh.
That in fact. They're not that many, like if I'm serving AV1, it's like 15% of the viewers have browsers that are compatible and using.
Oh, that wouldn't work.
So that's it. Has nothing to do with you and adoption. It's purely adoption of AV1 broadly in the internet.
Okay. All right. Well, then how about bitrate? Bitrate, because obviously on other platforms you can just. I think on YouTube it's like. You can do like 4K, 360, 30,000 million bit rates, like whatever. Whereas Twitch, we're stuck on 8K, which what's the deal there?
The challenge, so we're a lot bigger than many other platforms, and people always want as much as they can get, and it can be rather expensive, because everyone will just say, "Oh, give me more, give me more, give me more."
Yeah.
But we've certainly looked at it. Does make a difference for bigger streamers, to be honest, because they have a bigger audience. We've also looked at ways where if you want more bitrate, maybe you can just like be part of some package where you pay to get the improved bitrate because it's like, yeah, I want to do it. But it's one of the challenges Twitch has given our size. some of these things that seem like no big deal can be very expensive.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? If you increase the bitrate from 8K to 10K, it's like that's 20%, well, a lot more, processing you guys have to do. But then again, you could just make it like a premium thing, right? Where only you only distribute the Twitch Turbo guys get the high bitrate,
Yeah, absolutely. We could absolutely add that as a.
Another one that I have been like super begging for, and you guys kind of half implemented it actually, where you added in an audio track feature where you could basically remove
2-track audio.
Yeah, you could remove the VOD, so I could listen to music without and it's not stuck in the VOD, so the VOD doesn't get completely ruined. How about like just the same exact technology, right? The second track, except you it's an advanced thing where you don't have to like confuse people with like multiple volume bars, but they can open up an advanced option to the player, and they can just drag down the music volume if they don't want to hear music, or
so you can meaning like right. So extending it to the viewer side.
Yeah.
Extending it to the viewer side it would end up being pretty complicated.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty complicated because of all of the packaging. Because now you need a separate audio track. You need it is it's an interesting idea. I would tell you my instinct is it's one of those interesting, cool ideas that some people would use, but it actually is a fair amount of work to do. And some of the ideas I'm like, no, it'd be great to be able to do that. It's just a question of when. I think this is one where it's cool and interesting, but the amount of work isn't worth the payoff.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Opportunity cost is not there. Although I feel like I think a lot of people would use it, but yeah, it would not be your average mobile user or your average guy on the smart TV. It'd be like power users.
Yes, and because it starts, you're only going to use it if somebody's playing music, and then it's kind of like, well, why does one person want the music lower and one person wants the music higher? It's like most people just want the default. They want you to like figure out what's the right thing for your stream. That's what most people want.
Another thing is if it incurred extra cost, in terms of bandwidth and things. I don't think audio is big. It's like a few hundred kilobytes or something, right? But whatever.
No, it's not a bandwidth problem. It's a technology of the packaging because it needs to be a separate track.
Well, what I was gonna say is you could sell it as like another reason to have Twitch Turbo or like a sub button thing, which then you guys make money.
I think the thing we've thought about is doing things that isn't about making money. It's about breaking even and covering the cost, right? I think you'd have a lot of people that would pay for higher bit rates or AV1 or stuff like that. My instinct is there wouldn't be that many people that this would motivate.
Yeah.
Them doing it.
It's more like you just create a package. You just create some big ass package. And you see like, all this extra stuff. I don't even care about some of the stuff, but it's like lots of benefits. Just the more lines you add to something, the more value the person buying it perceives. I feel like. But yeah, it probably is.
This one in particular is a fair amount of engineering work. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this one? Emergency stop ads button with the cooldowns. You can't spam it to abuse it, but it's like maybe once a day, because very rarely this happens, but it does happen sometimes. The content window opens. And what I mean by that is like the most pog part of the entire stream is happening. Like some crazy items just dropped, or some insane moment. Like I'm about to die in a computer game, and it's a hardcore computer game where if you die forever, and an ad plays, and it's like, man, it would be cool to just cancel that one ad at one time, maybe once a day, once every 2 days.
You could. Well, now the interesting thing is, I think the problem here is I don't think you can cancel it once it's started, but you do have that feature before it starts.
Yeah, but because we run auto ads here, but it's just sometimes it just misaligns. Because in a game like RPGs, you can't predict when these moments are going to happen.
No, I know, but now, in fact, I don't know if this is launched yet or it's coming out soon. So we have a timer. It's on the on a page you often aren't, that we're putting below the chat. Now you may not be having Twitch chat open, where you have a timer and a button to pause the ad.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So
that sounds better.
That says ad, because the capability exists right now. It's just in the ads dashboards, and you don't have that open on your screen, so you don't see it. We're moving it to the Twitch chat, so that way when an ad's coming, you know it. If it's a bad time, you can pause the ad.
I can still see a niche situation though, where an ad begins, right? So and then after the ads have begun, you're like 10 seconds into the ad. Actually, now this moment, I'm about to die in the computer game, and you want to
Yeah, I
cancel
know, I know,
right?
I know.
Yeah, which is,
I will tell you, my instinct is it's like, yes, there is that issue. It gets a little tricky because once you start running an ad, then usually that's when you charge them. But now if you stop it before it's over, then you don't charge them. And so, but you could. It's just you realize we would not make any. You would have run part of that ad and then nobody makes any money from it. But I think you could extend that so that it interrupts an ad break.
Okay. Now this is kind of like channel points and stuff. I don't know how much you interact with that, but I'm like a massive channel point guy. I love them. It's like turns the stream into a sports betting stream, except no one loses any money and like their lives aren't ruined. Have you ever channel point auctions where people can basically bid channel points and only the winner is charged? I could basically you could. There's a lot of things you can do with that.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot. The interesting thing with channel points is, I think there are a lot of interesting things we can still do with it. There are people like you that like use it like crazy.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of people that don't use it much at all. And so that's always been the challenge of the impact. But I think channel points are cool. They haven't been as broadly adopted as we had originally hoped, but some people just love them. And I think there is more stuff we could do there.
Doesn't Twitch like make millions of dollars? Can you just like pay 5 guys or whatever, 3 guys to be the channel point guys, and they just continuously iterate and make it better for the the 20% of users who use it,
Yeah. So we don't make millions of dollars in terms of profit.
Shit.
So the simple answer is no. Okay, because we're not there right now. And it is, I will say this, it's an interesting point that one of the things that I've been very clear about, we did the Partner Plus program, and I'd like to extend better revenue share to more streamers. Okay. Anytime I spend money, the only way I get that money is through the rev share. And so I need to be incredibly judicious. And in fact, the more I can save money, the more I can change to give more money back to creators. And so it's really important that we are really critical. And that's one thing I've been doing, is trying to look at, we should only be spending money when we really need to spend money, because there's only one place we get it from.
Well, something like channel points, you've been talking about the entire time about how, chat interaction is like the key. It's like the number one thing. You and the chat and the interaction between the streamer and all that. I feel like channel points help bridge that gap, because they can make these, which is like maybe it's.
Channel points are great. It hasn't quite had the impact we had hoped.
Maybe if it was better.
Points.
What do you think? Maybe if they were maybe there's just more features, that where they had them.
That absolutely may be the case. I have no argument here. I like the idea of auctions. I like the idea of interactivity.
I have infinity ideas, by the way. I got channel point reward. You get like emote libraries, channel point libraries, because we're limited at 50 right now. So many, like like the little extensions below the stream. Right now, it can only work with bits, allowing it to work with channel points, for example. I mean, and I feel like I'm not a coder, and I just say, hey, just code. But I feel like a lot of the stuff is literally like, okay, creating a little folder inside of a channel point thing, so you get like camera effects, sound effects, right? That wouldn't be like a team of 20 people working for weeks. It'd be, you just code. Some guy just codes it, right?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. It takes longer than you think, but I'm not. I think there's more we could do there.
Okay. Well, I have infinite channel point ideas, because I am the ultimate channel point Andy. I'm like, I probably use like 1 or 2% of overall channel points on the entire platform.
When I have when there's a team working on it, then I will reach out and say, Quin's your guy.
Yeah. Anything you want to test, like I will do any beta testing. Okay, and I will give you as much feedback as you can possibly handle. Like,
all right.
Okay, timeouts. There's a limit on timeouts. Like, I want to time people for longer. Like, on Reddit, I can time someone out for like 5 months, a year. I can time them out, but because sometimes you don't want to permaban someone, because then you have to deal with the unban requests and all that. You just want to time them out for longer than 2 weeks. Why is there a cap? Like, can we not just uncap timeouts?
Where you just pick an arbitrary amount?
Just random amounts. Yeah. I mean, it could just be. I mean, it could just be. It's just for whatever. Oh, the amount right now for Twitch is like 2.1 million seconds or something, right? It's like 2 weeks, which is not long enough in my opinion.
So that's a question. Like, most people like simple, and and like in one hand, it's like, oh, you can pick whatever you want, and most people are like, well, I don't want to pick whatever I want. I'm a little confused why you feel like you're willing to let them back after 6 months.
Yeah.
Why is it that you're willing to let them back after 6 months? If you're willing to let them back after 6 months, why do you feel 2 weeks isn't enough for them to stop being a jackass?
Yeah, well, they're being a jackass, and or they're being harassing you. Say like in a way that's like, okay, dude, you've escalated. You did like a 1 day timeout. You did like a 5 day timeout, and then you did a 2 week one. It's like, bro, like this guy's clearly not learning. You want to be like, okay, I'm gonna time you out for a literal 1 year, and if you come back after then and you're still bad, okay. But it's like, and then you don't have to deal with any, or even just different numbers, right? Just a 1 month timeout. You could just do meme timeouts as well, not even.
Yeah, I will say, and by the way, I don't know if we've done this analysis with timeouts. I know we do this analysis with bans and other things to figure out when longer really makes a difference in their behavior. My sense is one of those things that it's kind of nice, but that most people, it's like, listen, either I don't want them in my chat or they're fine to come back in 2 weeks. It's interesting if you go to a month. I think it's kind of hard to figure out why you should do it for a year versus a ban in 1 day.
I can tell you another huge reason is this, is if you're timed out, you can still see the chat. So people don't actually care as much, right? Whereas the second you go to perma, they can no longer see the chat. And then do you know what they do?
Yeah, I think that. By the way, it's also the fact that now I think there's, especially with the changes we're making in terms of having when you're banned, people not watching your channel. I think it's a fair point to consider with some of the changes we've been making.
Yeah, I mean, it may be the case. Just some guy codes it in 2 seconds. I mean, the way I see it is like, oh yeah, you just increase the number, but then maybe it's not that simple, and it actually requires a whole redesign. Another feature that you were actually talking about before was guest star, because I did a lot of guest starring whenever they were doing the beta. My Twitch guys were like, dude, try discs out, do it, and I was like, okay, I'll do some guest starring. And one of the features that we really wanted was to have like a pre-lobby where everyone can talk to each other, like we're doing right now. Imagine like a Discord room where the mods can be in there and be like, hey, dude, turn on your mic, make sure it's working, and they can talk and confirm everything. And then once you can see their video, you're literally talking to them, even briefing them, saying, okay, we're going to drag you in like 15 seconds. They're going to talk to you about this, and then they can just go, shh. That'd be so good. Like a pre-rehearsal room or something where it's active.
Yep. No, I think that'd be nice. I'll tell you, I do think that'd be nice. My current focus is in the opposite direction, which is it needs to just be simpler and quicker. And I completely agree that feature is good too. I think, but for most people, they want it to just frickin' work.
Yeah.
And they want it to be quick. Right now, I know I use guest star a lot, and the amount of time until someone's up, it's just too long.
100%. Well, that's the issue, right? Is you drag them in, and then they're like, "Oh, what's going on? I can't hear you. Your microphone's not working." And then their mic's on, but the camera's not on, and then the camera comes on, and it's like, well, if we could just have that ready beforehand. I guess you're saying just fix it so it just works.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The first thing is fix it so it just works.
That's another CEO said that about their games. That Todd Howard. It just works. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the play. That's absolutely.
Yeah.
ANZ. I'm from New Zealand. Right.
Oh,
which
okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of that place.
I have heard. I was there 2 years ago. I was there right before COVID, 3 years ago.
Oh, hell yeah.
I went kayaking there. I do a lot of whitewater kayaking, and I went there to whitewater kayak.
Well, okay, I'll just candidly ask. This is never gonna happen, but like, yo, can we get a Twitch server in New Zealand? Is that a thing that's ever gonna? This is selfish, by the way. No one lives here, but.
Well, I mean, in terms of streaming, I would suspect we have edge pops there.
There's one in Australia. There's one in Australia, but the connection between NZ and AU, some guy with a digger or a forklift or whatever goes through some box, and just messes the whole thing up, like on a
So
regularly.
you're saying basically the stream quality is much worse in New Zealand than Australia.
Yeah, well, there's constant connection, like issues to like, drop frames, and it's like, dude, Amazon have
I
got
didn't know that.
servers there. Can they just spin up a server? I mean, I don't know how that works. But
I'm surprised that we don't have a pop in New Zealand.
It's because our population is less than like probably the city you're in right now. It probably has more population than the entire country, which is the issue.
No, don't worry. I know.
Yeah.
I'll check to see if we do. I thought we did actually, but I'm not sure.
And
I don't
then
see why we.
the other thing is, so ANZ always like we always get I mean, it makes sense though. Why would you prioritize small people? But like we didn't get bits for ages, and then we still don't have bounties, for example. Like what?
Well, but that's because the bits. There's no reason why you shouldn't have bits. Bounties. The problem is we need to build a market on the other side. The bounty board is only useful if there are companies coming and giving you money. But look, I'm very big on we need to think holistically. We're an international company. Now, by the way, so you live in New Zealand now?
Yep, living my entire life. I was born here.
North Island or South Island?
North Island. I live in a place called Wanganui.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I don't disagree. We need to, and we strive. I mean, New Zealand it's small, but it's still like we're very big in New Zealand. So no argument here.
Hell yeah. Okay, I believe. Oh, to be honest with you, when it comes to New Zealand streamers, I am kind of I'm kind of joking because I figured like you guys will never do it, but then I was thinking maybe it's possible. But no, really, there is. I can think of single digits NZ streamers, that I know of, in terms of it is very niche. Now Australia, it's bigger, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Well, I'm hoping to get there again soon, and I'll ping you when I do because I want to go back there to kayak.
Hell yeah! Oh, definitely. I'm building the Cuck Shed 2.0, dude. Okay, that probably sounds weird. I'm building a giant studio just for streaming.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, there's it's basically gonna have 4 setups. It's gonna have a whole content area. I'm gonna invite some NZ streamers down to do some gaming and stuff. And if people are in the area, hey, Wanganui has a big ass river that's known for kayaking. So you can actually do this entire multi-day trip from the top of Wanganui all the way down.
Yeah, I know, it's great there.
So
all right, so let's do this. I am gonna need to go soon.
Okay, yeah.
And why don't you go with one more question, and then I actually want to show you my son's kayaking video, which is a fun thing for the audience to look at.
Oh shit! Oh, okay. All right, one
you gotta
question.
pick one more.
Any question? Do you know what? This is a fun question. Who have you to name your top 5 favorite streamers?
Yeah. Look, I'm not gonna tell you which of my, I'm not following that trap. Okay.
Which kid do you love the most?
Yeah, which kid? Look, I got trained by that. My kids, they did also. Okay, no, come on, Dad. Tell me, do you love me more? Do you love, And that's, by the way, that's one reason why I think I need to show my son's kayaking video to make it clear that I love him.
Balance it out,
yeah. You're not going to get that out of me. And I will say this: when I use Twitch, I peruse a lot because that's part of my job. So I'm an unusual Twitch user. Most Twitch users find a channel, they love it, they go back to that channel. I am always roaming.
Hell yeah. That makes sense. Fair enough. Okay. Follow Clancy on Twitch, guys. Follow him on Twitch. DJ Clancy. Why am I following you? Let me see you. I'm following you right now. Boom. For the Lydia side. I mean, are you going to do any kayak streaming? Is that ever on the agenda?
I did do one. The problem, but the one I tried it once. I'm going to try it again when I'm in Charlotte, because problem is most places where there's kayaking, the cellular connectivity is shit.
Yeah.
Because you're in a gorge or something. And so like when I did it, it kept dropping out. But I have it all figured out how to do it. It's just a question of, like, when I did it, they said they only got about 25% of the kayaking trip. And for like most of that, it was pixelated. But that's one particular river. So I'm going to keep trying to find a river that has good enough cell connectivity where it works.
100%. All right. Well, I'm going to do that same testing in the Wanganui River. Okay, so I'll let you know if the connectivity is good there. Thank you so much. Like, I mean, that's legendary. You canceled meetings to come on, and you answered. There was. I don't think there was even a single question. Which I'm used to CEO Andy's just dodging every question. So, I mean, you did the opposite. You took it head on.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Quinn, and looking to hang out again in the future sometime.
Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Quinn.
Peace.
And to my chat, thanks for being here. I'm going to sign off so I can get to another one of my meetings.
Good luck. GG's. All right, there it is. There it is, boy. Yo, have you seen this? Have a look at his profile picture, by the way. If you haven't seen it, it's legendary. Most legendary profile picture of the universe. Look at this guy.
Because he is
God game.